So a lot of people think that Tyranids are bad right now, but they're wrong. And they're not just wrong about Tyranids. They're actually wrong about how improvement really works in Warhammer 40,000. And you can replace this with CSM. You can replace this with Tau. You can replace this with really any army that people are just not feeling super good about. So what I did is I took Tyranids to a grand tournament, and I didn't win the event. But what happened there matters more than a trophy. Because this tournament proved something that most players really just don't want to hear. The problem typically isn't your army. It's generally going to be about how you are utilizing the tools that you already have. And so today I'm walking you through all of my games in the tournament, the matchups, all the decisions, the mistakes. And I'm going to show you why Tyranids are actually quite dang good. They're just a little bit misunderstood. And this is going to apply to almost every single army in the game, unless you're an Imperial Agents player, in which case, hats off to you, you legendary Chad. Keep trying to make it work, King. And if I can shift how you get to think about all of your resources that you're utilizing, not just in 40K, but in anything competitive, you stop waiting for better tools and you'll start winning with what's in front of you. So let's go ahead and talk about the tournament. I'm actually really excited to dive into this. This was a pretty large GT over here in Oslo, Norway. Or I'm sorry, not Oslo, Bergen, Norway. This was a great event put on by the guys called Okeanos. Now, there were a lot of last-minute drops, unfortunately, so we did only end up with 54 people at this tournament as opposed to the original 80-plus that we were expecting. But this was a golden ticket event for the World Championships for Warhammer. Now, when I was going to this event, I was originally going to bring my Dark Angels because, honestly, I think that our list is just still completely cracked, and it's very, very hard for anyone to counter. But I was deciding I kind of wanted a new challenge, and I had heard a lot of people telling me that, Tyranids are I had heard from a lot of Tyranid players in particular that they thought that Tyranids were really bad. I was like, well, honestly, they just look like they've got unbelievable resources available to them, so I don't think they're bad. And so this was actually, I think I had literally one practice game with Tyranids, and then I put it on the tabletop, and I gotta be honest with you, the Tyranids freaking rock. So let's go through some of my matchups. I'll go through my list. I'm gonna do a very separate video on the Subterranean Assault, which is actually the detachment that I brought. I'm going to talk to you about a lot of the lessons about how I think some of you Subterranean Assault players out there can get a lot more value out of the army than what you may have been perceiving you can get. And especially since I just know there's not a lot of videos on Tyranids out there, or at least strategy content, I think this will be a really good thing for a lot of people to hear from. Okay, so let me go through this video today, which is tournament results and matchup pairing, stuff like that. So you're still going to get a lot of good stuff out of this. Round number 1, I was playing on Scorched Earth, and I was playing against a guy named Francisco Roque, and I probably butchered his last name. Sorry, man. He was an awesome opponent, and this was actually streamed. So if you want to go watch this match, you can go watch it on the Vizsla 40K YouTube channel. The guys at Vizsla came over to stream it. They're awesome. It's a Swedish company, and they're just really, really legendary people. I love them all, so big shout out to those guys. Okay, anyway, I was playing against Francisco. This was on Scorched Earth, and if I'm mistaken, I went first. And a lot of people think that with Subterranean Assault that you don't really like to go first. I don't know, man. I like going first because I like grabbing board freaking position. I love grabbing board position. But let me go over what my list was so you guys can have kind of like a preface for how all these matchups really went. So here we go. Just going to click the little button. Here we go. All right. I was running the Subterranean Assault. I was at 1990 points. And I took quite a few bit of characters, actually. I had the Death Leaper. And the point of the Death Leaper was to give... let me start over. For those of you who don't know, Subterranean Assault, the abilities of the army was that I get to spawn little tokens when any of my snake units, my burrower units, which are Trigons, Molochs, and Raveners, and hyper-adapted Raveners, whenever they come out of reserves. This gives me a token that I can then teleport basically units to and fro, and it more or less is going to enable army-wide 6-inch deep strikes. There's a little more nuance to it, but for the purpose of this video, that's basically what the army does, okay? So I had the Death Leaper, and the reason the Death Leaper was in the list was he was actually providing me an additional aura of -1 to my opponent's leadership, which was really, really important for some extremely important Shadows of the Warp things I could do. So this armor really functions off of Battle Shock quite a bit, and the Death Leaper was actually really instrumental for me getting better Battle Shock tests off on my opponents at a higher modifier when I really needed Battle Shocks to go off. He's also just a great lone up with 4 pinball when he fights first. He's just generally pretty freaking good. Okay, then I had one squad of hyper-adapted Raveners, and I did give them the turn 1 Deep Strike enhancement. The reason why I gave them a turn 1 Deep Strike enhancement was so that just in case I did go first, I could still create one of those tunnel markers. And I'll break down the tunnel markers and how they operate more in my actual Subterranean strategy video, which will probably be later this week, shockingly, because I'm interested in it right now. So that's why I gave them that enhancement. Then I had one Neuro Tyrant, and the Neuro Tyrant was, of course, attaching to a bunch of Zone Thropes. He's there to give my Shadow in the Warp an additional -1 modifier when I utilize it. He also makes the Zone Thropes +1 to hit, so now the Zone Thropes will all be hitting on 2s, rerolling hit rolls of 1. It makes them just hyper efficient and hyper lethal. I had one Trigon, and I did give him the Trigon Prime enhancement, which gave him an extra blip of strength, an extra blip of weapon skill, and it made him a Synapse creature, which is actually highly relevant in a lot of matchups. And then lastly, a controversial take, I know, but this is why I kind of like starting new armies with like a blank slate, because other people would have told me not to take them, and I'm really glad I did take them. It was the Winged Hive Tyrant. He wasn't necessarily the easiest to use, but he was very important for the army. I had 10 Hormiguts, 1 Biovore, 1 Lictor, 3 Molochs. Yes, Molochs were just absolute legends. 2 Neurolictors, 2 units of Raveners. 1 was going to be attached to the Hyper Adapted in every single matchup. 1 Screamer Killer. Yes, I know people say Screamer Killers are bad, and I kind of think I agree. I wouldn't say that they're bad. I would say that they're difficult to use, but in Subterranean Assault, they become very easy to use. So they become very good in Subterranean Assault. And then 1 squad of the Zoanthropes to go with the Neurotyrant. That was my army. Okay, so this is Scorched Earth. I ended up with a 93-point victory over Francisco. He was running the Angelic Inheritors Blood Angels. And honestly, I don't think there was anything he could have done to win the game. It just seemed absolutely impressive. Now, Francisco is a very good player, so I could be wrong. Maybe there were some things that he could have done to pull the win out, but without being intimately familiar with the way that Subterranean Assault works, and even if he was, it felt incredibly good for me. I mean, 3 Molochs coming up in a turn, each one of them causing D3 mortal wounds to everything within 12 inches. I'm just picking up like 2 Sanguinary Guard out of like 2 different squads, killing like 3 to 4 scouts, battle shocking a unit. Like it was just so brutal. And then I enabled the 6-inch deep strike charges. There was just so much board control I had with this army that with the MSU style of the Angelic Inheritors version of Blood Angels, it was a very challenging matchup for him. Even though, and I think he learned some good things. There were some things that he could have done to position himself a little bit safer. But the reality was, it was his first time playing Subterranean Assault, and if you've never played an uppy-downy army, especially one as tricky with 6-inch deep strikes like Subterranean and 6-inch shooting and like teleports like Subterranean Assault, it's gonna be very challenging your very first time. So I mean, he gave a really admirable effort, and he actually went on to have a very great performance at his tournament. He's also a really good player here in Norway, and I actually have not had the opportunity to get to play him, and it was an absolute blast. Total gem of a guy. Totally loved him. Anyway, let's go on to the second round. Now, the second round, let me just pull up here. I want to make sure I've got the correct mission for you guys. The second mission was I was playing against a Grizzled Company player, and this was on Terraform. Now, this was against Inga Markusen, who's actually a happy crumper, so shout out. And I had an absolute blast playing against Inga. And I say that with a loving little smirk because, oh boy, did we use the blast keyword in this matchup. So Inga actually went first, which is a very good thing for him. It allowed him to get the terraforms down first. It allowed him to push out and kind of screen all of my deep strikes and stuff. But he made a critical error. He gave me a little bit of a line of sight to his 20-man squad of guardsmen, so my zone thropes were able to come down turn 1, activate sustained hits, ignore cover, and blast, and I was able to basically eliminate his massive 27-man squad in turn 1. That basically just gave me all the board control I needed, and I was able to push through. I never did kill some of his Drogodorans. There were actually a lot of things I never dealt with, but I didn't really have to just because I had the ability to teleport everywhere on the battlefield. And one of the really cool things about the Molochs in this list is that whatever screens he did put up, I would diminish the screens because a Moloch comes out of reserves. I'm going to cause D3 mortal wounds to everything within 12 inches. That's going to allow the next Moloch to come slightly closer out of reserves, cause D3 mortal wounds to everything within 12 inches. And yes, everyone, I know the Molochs cannot use their ability if they use a tunnel token, so this is all outside of 9. But that's going to kill more models, which decreases his screening again, allows the third Moloch to come down, do the same thing. At that point, now I can come out of the tunnel markers 6 inches away because his screens are already dead in the movement phase. And this creates a big problem. Also, one of the really big scary things for Imperial Guard is what happens when they get battle shocks. They lose their orders. And when Imperial Guard loses orders, it's a very big struggle for them. So I had set up a really good shadows of the warp turn. I had like my synapse creatures all over the board. I had the Death Leaper within 6 inches of like 4 or 5 different critical units. So in that position, he was right next to also a synapse creature. So I think I had on the Shadow of the Warp, I had like 4 or 5 of his units having to take Shadow of the Warp at a -3 total modifier for Battle Shocks plus leadership modifiers, and it was just absolutely crippling for him. So I was able to sweep the game. So I had a blast playing Inga. He actually, I think he performed quite well. He just made that error early game, which made it almost impossible for him to recover. But I think he did an admirable job trying to recover afterwards, and I think he learned a lot of the game. So had a blast with him. All right, next matchup. This one was so much fun. I played against Magnus. Magnus is a local guy here in Norway who is here to Oslo, where I currently live. He's an incredible player. He's notorious for being the guy who will sometimes just bring funky lists because they're fun, and then he just still wins because the guy understands strategy at a really, really good level. Now, in this particular matchup, some wild, wild things happened. I had a Shadow in the Warp turn where, once again, I had set it all up. Where he was getting -3 modifiers, he was getting -2 modifiers, he was getting modifiers all over the place, and I actually ended up battle shocking his entire army. I think that's the first time it's ever happened. But when you are base leadership 7 and then you take a -3 modifier, rolling a 10 is not an easy thing to do. And it looked like it was absolutely over at that point. But Magnus saw his opportunity to get back in, and what he did was actually brilliant. So I want to give him a lot of credit for this, right? He did get lucky, but he knew that the only way to win was to get lucky. So what he did is he just full sense everything, regardless of battle shocking potential. He didn't try to hide anything. He didn't try to play cagey. Had he played cagey at all, I would have just swept the entire board, and that would have been the game. Instead, he knew that the only way that he was going to win was that he went very, very aggro. He would have to assume or play as if he knew that he was going to roll nothing but sustained hits 2 on all of his hectons. He knew he was going to get nothing but perfect charges, and he got those dice. He got those charges, and he was able to eke out the draw. This is something that I think a lot of people get confused in their head. They think, oh, he just got lucky. No, 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 no. The man made his luck. He understood the position he was in, and he made the correct plays to take advantage of the dice. And I'm really, really impressed that he had the ability to do that under the pressure that I had him under. And he actually took me to the draw. And that was it was a blast of a game. He got the dice rolls he needed, but he actually positioned himself to take advantage of those dice rolls. So I think it was actually awesome. This was an awesome match. I know I had a turn where I battle shocked everything in his army, and he also had 3 turns in a row where he got like 14 hits off of his 6 shots of the Hexon Land Fortress with sustained hits 2 gun. So it's like we both had the dice spikes, and it ended up at a perfect draw. Kudos to Magnus. You did a great freaking job. Very, very proud of you. Now, in the 4th round, I'm still looking like, okay, I got a draw, but that doesn't mean I'm out of the running. And then I had one of the most hilarious experiences of my career, which was, it was also very confusing in my head. I was playing one of my clients who is an incredible human being, and he's working really, really hard. And he was running my Dark Angels list. The Dark Angels list that I personally think is one of the strongest armies in the entire game right now. And just so you guys see it, this is the one I popularized. You've probably seen it around the army, around the interwebs. Popping up. It's Wrath of the Rock. It's turn 1 deep striking ancient and Terminator armor with your Deathwing Knights. It's got Azrael, Combi Lieutenant, and Lionel Johnson. 2 squads of Deathwing Knights. One is obviously doing the turn 1 deep strike. 1 squad of Desolation Marines. 1 Lancer. 1 Plasma Inceptors. 1 squad of Inner Circle Companions running with Azrael. 2 squads of Scouts. And a Calidus. This is a unbelievable army. It's probably the army I'm most proud of that I've ever created, because holy crap is it good. And Eric, I'm so proud of him, and I'm so pissed that he beat me like this, but I'm not actually pissed, by the way. But I was a little disappointed because that knocked me out of the running for the golden ticket. But that's okay, because he just played the game perfectly. And this Dark Angels army actually hard counters Tyranids in general. So he played it correctly. He understood when he made a little bit of a mistake that I was able to take a board presence off of him on, that the only way forward was to stat check me. And he stat checked me, and he made the dice rolls he needs to make, and he was able to eke out a massive win. So I'm incredibly proud of him. He did an awesome, awesome job. So this was actually a total blast for me to play. It was frustrating because I lost, but I was also super, super excited for my client because this guy has been working so hard, and man, has he gotten good. So I'm super, super proud of him. Great freaking win. Absolutely awesome experience. And then the last round, I played another Dark Angels player. I played Mr. Knut, and Knut was An absolute Chad. Had a blast with him. I apologize for him because I had to play really fast because I had to leave so I could catch an early flight that I had scheduled. But I absolutely loved meeting him, and the Tyranids really just swept through. This is a take and hold matchup. So the Tyranids were super good. Super, super good. I ran into one matchup where my opponent he was super smart. He understood how bad a position he was in, and he made the correct plays to take advantage of the dice rolls that he needed to take, and he was able to eke out the draw. And then I ran into another opponent who just had the army that was the hard counter, and he played intelligently, and he did the correct thing. Besides this, my impression of Tyranids right now is I think Tyranids are really, really good. I will say that it seems to me that they're probably better in a team's setting than they are in a single setting, because in a single setting, they are liable to run into just some hard counters. Whereas I don't think like Dark Angels really have hard counters right now, which is why I would say that they're better in teams, but I don't think they're bad in singles at all. I actually think that there is a lot that we can cook with Tyranids, where we can really, really make some serious impact in the meta with Tyranids as is right now. Now, there's a few things that I would like to see change for Tyranids as well. Like, for example, I think you should always be at -1 to your Battle Shock test when you're within range of Synapse. I don't think that should only apply in the Shadow of the Warp phase. I think that would be a change that Tyranid players should have. One of the big complaints that I hear from Tyranid players, however, was that they say Shadow in the Warp is not a good or reliable rule. I cannot possibly agree. Every single Shadow in the Warp that I declared was amazing, but I set them all up. I will say for a fact that if I was just running, hey, Shadow in the Warp, take your Battle Shock test, it would probably be almost useless. But what I did is I made sure that every single Shadow in the Warp phase I had my Death Leaper in position. I had all of my Synapse creatures in position. I had people prepared to take a -3 modifier, -2 modifiers throughout the entire board. Then I also had 3 Molochs that were going to come in, which would then have the potentials of causing more battle shocks. I had my Neurolictors positioned to create battle shocks in the command phase or movement phase, whichever one. Then I even had my Screamer Killer that was able to come out of reserves, shoot them for yet another -1 modifier or -2 if they're close to the Death Leaper battle shock. So I had the ability to give 5, 6 battle shocks in a phase after I did the Shadow in the Warp. So when you really lean into your strengths, what you find is that you have some serious, serious strengths, even if there are some tools that you don't necessarily have access to. Like, for example, this list that I was running had 0 defenses. So I didn't play to be defensive. I played to just smash unreasonably hard. That's how I played, and it worked out really, really well. I'm really interested in exploring Tyranids a little bit more. I'm very happy with the current results. I really wanted to win against Eric here, but man, I'm also so excited that he was able to like keep his mental state correctly, not get intimidated, and just absolutely do what his army was designed to do, which is dominate primary. And he totally did it. Even when I had an awesome Battle Shock phase on him, he just went through with the exactly correct mindset. He never left the objectives, even though I was baiting him into it. He just did a great freaking job. So shout out to all the opponents that I had. Shout out to the organizers for Okeanos Rising, especially Robert. You guys did an amazing job. I will 100% support and try to attend in the future, and I'll make sure that I promote it out to some other people. If you guys are in Norway, make sure you check out the guys at Okeanos out in Bergen. It was an awesome freaking event. So with that, guys, I'm going to take off for today. Hopefully you enjoyed the Tyranid list I'm playing. I'm going to be coming back later this week with another video where I'm going to be going in depth into Subterranean Assault and why I think it is, if not OP, we're real close to the top. So we'll be back with all that information. Crump on. Bye-bye.